Welcome into the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio on a Thursday. I'm Tim Dennis. Excited for today's show, folks. We have an old friend who's coming back with us, and we're going to blow your mind a little bit more today. We'll get to that in just a second. I have some interesting news for you. I don't tend to, I don't know if the word is brag. This isn't a brag by any means, but before we get into today's show, I have a little bit of news for you. So there's a huge news story that's going on. It's been going on for over the last couple of days about Pope Leo, right? The idea is that Pope Leo is related to a few different stars via a man in Canada that goes back 6 generations, right? And he's supposedly related to Madonna, Justin Bieber, Angelina Jolie, and even Justin Trudeau and Pierre Trudeau via this man in Canada that goes back six generations. So I went, well, this kind of rings bells for me, as I've said before on this program. Not that I like to turn a lot of attention to myself on this program, but it's kind of a little narcissistic if you ask me. But alarm bells start going off in my head. As I've told you all before, my 18th great-grandfather was the 4th Grand Master of the Knights Templar. And through him, there's a lot of interesting connections, including a lot of famous people. I don't remember what great auntie she is, but Joan of Arc is my great aunt. There's some interesting connections here. So I text my aunt yesterday, and I'm like, they said this connection in Canada, and there's actually 2 Tremblay brothers, they're connected, not Tremblay brothers, but they're connected to the Tremblay family or Tremblay family that founded Quebec. And all things kind of run through Quebec, if anything, as far as French Canada goes. And I thought, well, that has to be the connection here with Pope Leo. And so I text my aunt and I said, are we related to Pope Leo? And she goes, as a matter of fact, we are. He's my 10th cousin. He's your 11th cousin. And I went, get out of here. She goes, oh, seriously? Yeah, he's a cousin. So there's yet another famous person I'm related to. So I don't know. Maybe I'll pop up on the steps of the Vatican. We'll have a spaghetti dinner. We'll sit around and we'll talk about how the Sox suck and the Twins rule. So I guess there's my little picadillo for today. So it's another famous person I'll never meet. But you never know. But there's all kinds of theories now swimming around my head, which I'll keep in my head. That will sit there. Maybe I'll share one with Nathaniel, our guest, after the program. Our guest is an old friend who's going to join us today, Nathaniel Gillis. He's known as an esteemed paranormal researcher, a captivating figure in the realm of the supernatural, with an unwavering dedication to unravel the mysteries of the infernal. Nathaniel possesses a wealth of knowledge and expertise that has established him as an authority in his field. He's got piercing intellect and navigates the delicate nuances of the paranormal lore with ease, elucidating the dark depths of the occult to shed light on ancient rituals, I can't even say the word. We'll just say dark entities and the intricate forces that govern their interactions with the mortal world. We'll put it this way. I teased you yesterday about sigils. That's all I'll say. And then we'll just jump into it right away. Let's welcome him back to the program. Nathaniel Gillis, my friend, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. It's always a pleasure to be on with you. And thank you for having me back on again. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. I also teased the audience yesterday that maybe I know that your work continues, but it seems like your work is getting darker, and there may be coming a time where maybe our visits might be cut short, that you might have to pull back a little bit on some of the appearances that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's an unfortunate byproduct of the kind of research I and others are doing at this point. What I've learned, if anything, about the phenomenon is if you get too close to the matrix or the construct, it pushes back. And so here lately, I've been doing really, really dark research, and it's taxing, to be transparent with you. And there are days where I'm on the mountaintop, right? I have some kind of revelation. I had a breakthrough in work, and then only to find myself just completely able to function the next day. It's like the phenomenon hits you with everything, so it's depression, sickness. I was in a head-on collision a couple of months back where it totaled my car, and 60 miles an hour. We still don't know where the guy came from, just head on, boom. And it was the night before that actual car wreck. I had been reaching out to friends and family, just pray for me. Would you do something? I feel the phenomenon reaching for me because of the research I'm doing. And so that's when I'm kind of maturing into a pattern where I have to do my research for like maybe 3 or 4 days and then take a week off. 3 or 4 days, take a week off. But the work is important because we have the weight of history on our shoulders. We're not doing this just for us. We're doing this for the generations to come. So it's really not about me. It's not about you. It's not about any of us. And I know you know that, brother. And
Yeah.
so, but yeah, that's why I'm here. The work is progressing. But as you well know, the phenomenon is evolving according to our awareness of it. And that means in order for us to get an angle on this thing, we have to evolve twice as fast in order to understand what's actually occurring. And so where I'm at now is I've been collecting sigils that are being found on craft and on the bodies of experiencers. And my most recent breakthrough was a quote given by Kenneth Grant, who was the heir to Thelema, given to him by Crowley. And his point was number one, before all of this was hijacked by ufology, these beings were perceived to be interdimensional. They did have bodies and they have their own sigils.
Really?
What kind of extraterrestrial would sigilize a body? Right. And so when I had that quote, along with all the cases I've been collecting, right, of sigilizations occurring on experiencers, not just sigilizations, my friend, but actual people who've conjured entities who were physically attacked by them. I have a photograph of a handprint of an entity where he was literally pushing his hands out of the body, and underneath the skin, you could see the subdermal handprint and its claws.
Really?
Yeah, so it's really nasty stuff. But this is just where the research has led me. When I first got in this field, not everybody, but people are saying, okay, religious demonologist, he's trying to project religion on this. I'm really not. Matter of fact, my model as it stands is not demonological. I think the phenomenon eclipses that archetype. But there are aspects of what we're dealing with that gives reason, right? It actually did inform demonology as to what they are. And that's where you have the sigilizations occurring and the presence of ritual magic being employed on experiencers. And what's unfortunate, because when we have entire organizations that are sponsored and infiltrated by this intelligence, what starts to happen is if you change one word, if you change the word sigil into symbol, you can kind of push the extraterrestrial narrative without actually having to address the data set of what is this? What are they? And the most recent quote I have received from a book written by Kenneth Grant is, yes, the Isis Lodge has their sigils in their possession. And so now what we're doing is comparing and contrasting them. And so when you have this kind of controlled narrative out there in the field where people say, yeah, those aren't sigils, they're symbols, it doesn't just change the iconography, it changes the pathology behind them, right?
Now, let me ask
What's
you
their
this.
purpose?
Let me ask you this before we get too far into the weeds here.
Yeah.
Could it be argued that, and you said you can interchange sigil and symbol, could it be that, science wants to take some of the things that we see out there, even in crop circles, and I'll bring crop circles up as an example. They want to take some of the things that they see in crop circles or some of the other things that they see, and maybe we'll get into these weeds here in a bit. And they want to say, well, symbols are a form of communication. So maybe it's a way of an entity reaching out and just trying to talk to us. There's an assumption from a scientific standpoint of innocence. The assumption is, well, no, something is trying to reach out and communicate in an innocent way. Should we always have a guard up and say there isn't necessarily a veil of innocence there? That we should always beware that the first olive branch that's extended may have, and this is going to seem weird, there should be a thorny side to it's a rose branch, not an olive branch that's being extended whenever we make contact with anything.
Well, there are two pathologies present within sigilization that really point to a certain philosophy. Number one, these, specifically speaking with experiencers, not all of them are visible to the naked eye. Sometimes we have to put them under a light and then they show up. The sigils themselves are not just, again, invisible to the experiencers, but even when they are visible to them, they seem to be following an occultist's philosophy on sigillology, and that was Austin Osman Spar. He was an occultist, and he wrote books on sigils, and his philosophy was that they follow three stages of evolution. Number one, the body absorbs the sigils. Number two, the body activates them. And then the third stage is that the body expels them. And so now these are not just acts of communication, these are pictorial signatures of actual entities. And that most of the time, this is what I've called possession technologies, where the sigilizations themselves are tailored to the intent of the practitioner. And most of the time, this is what we've learned, not just within ufology, but even hybridism throughout history, where even hybrid mothers were found with sigils of practitioners underneath their eyelids. And so we're going to get into this head first. It's going to be groundbreaking and probably new for a lot of people, but this goes to show you where we're at in the research.
Okay.
But in 2002, the CIA declassified an old Russian document. It was about an experiment they were running with psychic mediums. What they were doing is placing a psychic medium within a controlled laboratory, actually placing a blank photographic piece of paper inside an envelope, strapping it to their forehead, and then giving them a series of symbols. And they said, we want you to project your consciousness into and onto this photographic paper. And here's what we want you to do. We want you to sigilize them. We want you to implant, watch this, change energy into matter and carve these symbols into this photographic paper. And so after the initial experiments, they were taking the envelopes off, pulling out the paper, and sure enough, from left to right, every symbol was on the paper. And so from that moment, they started to stretch the distance further, and they said, okay, instead of it being directly on your forehead, we're going to place it 10 to 20 feet away from you. Same envelope, same photographic paper, just place it on the table. We want you to do the same thing. Now, this is a very important aspect of the phenomenon here, because it was at that moment during their experiments that they captured a photograph of what's called a biofield in between the psychic and the envelope. There was, so we would call this, we've seen it in hauntology, sometimes in ufology, where it was like a kind of an energy field, a plasma field moving in like a cloud. It had popping corpuscular balls of light. And it's between, again, the practitioner and the object of the sigilizations. And so they're watching this as this biofield, and they were capturing, it's fascinating, they were capturing all their technology, everything. Anyways, they're watching this biofield as it starts to move across the room, slowly descends down upon the envelope, and they wait. And then they pull out the photograph paper. Sure enough, the symbols show up. The reason this is germane to our conversation is because I've been working with a gentleman whose mother experienced the same aspect of biosigilization. And him and his father both witnessed the biofield within the room.
Really?
Yes. His account was that him and his father were in the living room when his mother was laying down on the couch with a blanket, and in comes this shadow figure, and it's almost like it just turned into this bioplasma field, slowly moving over his mother. And he was a child at the time. He said, "Dad, what is that?" And his dad told him, "That's a cartoon character. It was kind of whitish. It's a cartoon character. Don't worry about it."
Okay.
And he said, to our utter astonishment, it would descend down upon his mother. And he said, and after maybe an hour or so, the mother wakes back up and she's covered head to toe with sigils. And she believes she was abducted by aliens.
Interesting.
So in this one case study, it kind of collapses that model of the phenomenon because it places the practitioner in the same room. He's there. It's there, and it's projecting its intentions and actually materializing sigils on the body of the experiencer. And likewise, again, with Austin Osman Sparr's philosophy of sigilization, the body absorbed them, the body activated them. She went to the hospital. They gave her some medication, gave her a blanket, and said, "Okay, we'll let us know what's going on. We've never seen this before." And then the body vacated them and expelled them. Now, sigils have a unique intention with them because it's not just some kind of esoteric signature, but it's directly tied to the entity itself. In 90% of the time, what we're looking at, again, is possession technology or an aspect of ritual magic where a ritual is being performed upon them. And we're looking back at it saying it's aliens, not realizing that literally the entire pathology here mimics the occult. Down to the sigilizations, subdermal scarifications, the biofield, and everything. So that's what has led me, not just that aspect of it, but even hybridism has led me to believe that we are dealing with not demons, right, but actual occult practitioners that are acting upon experiencers.
Very interesting. Okay, so this brings me to a whole nother thought here, which is this. And could it be argued that these occult practitioners, because I have people out there that could say, well, Tim, Nathaniel, are these occult practitioners from another dimension? Are they occult practitioners from further out in space? Are we talking about physical space? Like, did they travel from another part of our galaxy, or did they come from just, maybe just a slip of a portal from a dimension that just, they just slide in between dimensions? In other words, it's just a slip from one portal to another. They're in the same space, but just, you know what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There's a thin membrane separating us from them.
Yeah.
And I do believe that's the case. I've never fully bought into the extraterrestrial hypothesis. Not that I don't believe there are aliens out there, right? There's a lot of space, a lot of galaxies out there. So I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is that when we are interfacing with the phenomenon, it will moderate our human behavior by virtue of inducing different archetypes. For instance, right, that experiencer would have sworn, okay, that was an extraterrestrial. And yet from the outside, her entire experience was completely different than the way the phenomenon was interfacing with her, right? So her experience is completely different from what everyone else's is. If she would have realized, oh my God, like these are not extraterrestrials, this is a biofield upon me, these are balls of light, it would have completely revolutionized her understanding of what actually occurred to her. This is nothing new, though, in witch literature and Eros and Evil, we have cases of witches and practitioners being abducted by what they thought were demons and thought they were copulating with them, right? These are corpses and they're performing these rituals. The rituals were being performed, but somewhere within that matrix, or the learning matrix, as I say, the frequency failed them. And so they weren't actually where they thought they were. They weren't on, right, the backside of some mountain copulating with horns and hooves. The rituals were still present, but turns out when they realized what was going on, they were being poked and prodded by metallic objects. It was intelligence, it was technology merging itself with esotericism and with ritual magic. And so I think that's the more correct model. And if I can go as far to say this, and I do believe and I know that our government understands this. Right? It's not either or. It's not esotericism or technology. We have practitioners within our own federal government who are actively performing occult rituals to gain access to that technology. And so that's the model through and through. Forget all the archetypes from my perspective, right? The horns and hooves, the extraterrestrials, even the guide aspect of it. When you get down to the base notes of this fragrance, you'll see that there is some kind of technology being present. I mean, in a lot of this, by the way, we know this through idolatry throughout antiquity, right? You have the practitioner of idolatry in the late Iron Ages who was stoking the embers of a dying fire. He gets a download. I want you to go carve my name into a small piece of metal and then go find a dead body and plant that. Well, I thought that was ufology, right? It's not.
Yeah.
He was transferring their consciousness in, right, old memory into new matter and implant that underneath the tongue of a cadaver. And then these practitioners would interface with whatever this is out there by virtue of necromancy. And so that's why I believe, again, sigilization is possession technology. What we're seeing are the very end results of rituals being performed on people. We're seeing it from our end of it. And what's happened, and this has been really defeating for me, is that throughout history, again, just changing the word, sigil to symbol, or if you even have somebody who isn't even familiar with this phenomenology show up and say, well, I don't even know what that is. It could be Theban, by the way, or Goetian, but they didn't have a knowledge of that, right? And so they just say, okay, yeah, thank you for your questionnaire. We don't know what that symbol is. And they throw it up to the higher ups. I can tell you with confidence, the higher ups know what's going on here. They know exactly what it is. And there is a movement in the field to obfuscate this kind of research. It's not seen at conferences. It's not being heard. And the indication, or at least the implication, oh, well, it's too religious. I'm not dealing with religion now. I'm dealing with the actual data set we're experiencing. And so that's where I am. And it's a tough place to be in because I think every researcher wants to be heard and understood. And being in this position, though, what I do experience are people that project. Like, for instance, I had one guy that said, well, that's all wrong. He said, because I have a degree in biblical literature. Well, my friend, I'm now speaking with doctors of divinity who are coming out of the woodwork wanting to have Zoom calls with me. Not that I'm anybody, but the research being done is profound. Nathaniel, what's going on here? I'm like, okay, well, what do you have? Like, why are you coming to me? Here's what's happening. This stuff's not even being discussed or talked about in seminaries. I even asked this individual, I said, okay, did they watch this? Okay, for instance.
Sure.
Her doctoral thesis was on evil spirits. Demonology. I said, all right, did they ever talk to you about sigils? Never did. And so this area is being ignored by both religion and the ufology. Neither of them, right, are looking at this objectively and saying, okay, maybe this symbol isn't extraterrestrial. Maybe it's Theban. Maybe this is an occultist doing this, right? And I think that's where the research, I know it's where it's at, but the deeper we go into this, the more the phenomenon will protect itself. When it's carving sigils underneath people's eyelids, it's there, and we're capturing evidence of it on accident. Because we're knowing what to look for, right? Now we can go into cases and say, okay, here's the light. What's going on here? And so the phenomenon doesn't want this information out, and it will attack anybody who does this.
Okay, with that, we're going to stop, take a break. I have an interesting redirect when we come back, and I want to put it in a different and frame it in a different kind of light, Nathaniel. Here, I want to put it in the same way that we treat cattle, and I want you to hold that thought when we come back. Are these entities not just possessing, but are they marking and branding us like cattle? Hence the under the eyelids. Hold that thought. When we come back, we'll talk to Nathaniel Gillis about, are we not only being possessed, held, and culled, but are we also being marked for a strange reason and being possessed and held on to like cattle? Is there a reason why they're following down the bloodline and doing other things? Are we being just plain held on to like livestock? We'll talk about that when we come back with our guest, Nathaniel Gillis. Interesting conversation and interesting work that Nathaniel's doing. Again, he's at the forefront of all of this, folks. And again, Nathaniel, we'll have links in the description of this program as to where people can find you and where they can follow what you're doing as far as research goes. He's got 2 books out there, The Skin That Crawls and A Moment Called Man. We'll have links to those books as well. Folks, when we come back, are we actually cattle for these things? We'll talk about that with Nathaniel when we come back on the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. My guest is Nathaniel Gillis. We were talking about sigils and the occult and how it has to deal with these entities that we think are aliens and or demons. What are they? We're talking with Nathaniel Gillis about this. And before the break, I was kind of teasing that I wanted to redirect here, Nathaniel, and ask you, with these sigils that are being left underneath the eyelids of different abductees, it got me thinking. To me, it almost seems like branding. It almost seems like something that a farmer would do to cattle. You know, we put a mark on the rear end of a cow or a bull when we go to put it out to pasture, so that we know, should this thing get away or should it stray from us, we have a way of marking it, knowing that that's our cow, that's our bull. Should we stray too far away from the entity, it knows that we belong to it. Mm-hmm. Not only is this a mark or something to leave into the one that's possessed, but isn't this also a way to say to another entity, this is mine?
Absolutely. It's a staking, right, of claim. This is mine. I own this. And this is another aspect of Dr. Carla Turner's theory, where she believed, at least at one point in her career, that we were being used as cattle. And what this implies, though, it kind of implicates some of the laziest research I've seen in the, forgive me, where people say, well, if there was such a threat, they'd wipe us out. And no. If they were symbiotic, or should I say parasitic, then what they would do is they would breed some out and then kill other bloodlines. They would let others live while others just seem to disappear off the face of the planet. And that's what we're witnessing in real time. Just today, one of my mentors and I were having a Zoom call, and he was talking to me about some of the brain scans that they have been performing on experiencers, to where once they experience the phenomenon, there's a part of the brain that's being scarred. And that part of the brain that's being scarred is what tells us whether or not reality is real. And so, to get very deep very quickly, the phenomenon is not just sigilizing people, but once it induces us into this simulation we're encountering, right? When that ball of light comes over and we're thinking, okay, it's abductions, it's, UFOs and all that. When they're outside of the phenomenon, the brain scan is showing that there's scarification occurring to the brain matter. Now, of the experiencer. Now, first and foremost, everybody needs to understand they need to understand this. The phenomenon is pathogenic, and it often targets bloodlines. And so one of the very first cases we heard of this was Sinister Evamino, right? Where again, it wasn't just sigils underneath the armpits. They were carved into the areas of the body that were not even seen by the experiencer, underneath the eyelids, to where every night that experiencer would go to bed, she's staring directly into the sigils of the entity she doesn't even know exists. Dark stuff. But down to the brain matter and what we're looking at now, and this is fascinating because number one, we're not realizing that the experience of the phenomenon is not really beginning with manifestation, where we perceive it. Okay, it's foul. No, that's just the moment we perceive the phenomenon. And so what we're realizing is that the phenomenon is originating long before we believe it to be in our life, and it ends long after we are deceased. So these experiencers experience the phenomenon. They have scarification on their brain because of their direct experience with it. And so what they were doing is these people that researched them were testing the brain. Then the next stage, okay, we're going to interview and talk to the son. Okay, you're about 35. Your father, we've done brain scans with him. Have you experienced the same phenomenon? Yes, I have. Okay, let's do a brain scan. That part of their brain is also scarred. Here's the game changer, my dear friend. Now they're looking at the children of the children who've never encountered the phenomenon at all. Same scarification on the brain.
Really?
So what we're looking at, again, is the phenomenon manipulating people into encounters and literally leading us to believe the encounter ends with you. Or perhaps you are our target. And that's not always the case. You may be introduced to the phenomenon, but what you had to experience to get the scarification on your brain, your grandchildren may not. To where the phenomenon could create not just paranormality, but it could create the phenomenon through your entire bloodline, targeting someone that has not even been born yet, to where they don't even have to experience it. It's within them already. And so all of this points to a constructed reality, a matrix to which we are a part of. And it goes back to biosigilization. Yes, we are being branded. It's not just them carving their intentions into us, right? This does seem to be possession technology, to where even within hybridism, again, some of the very first cases of hybridism in history accompanied biosigilization of the hybrid mother, to where that entity was confused for a demon. Well, it would have been, right? Mm-hmm. Right. And so what essentially happened was, Father Sinister Evamino, for instance, would go into houses within an hour of the entity manifesting. He would collect secretions left by the entity along with biosigilizations on the hybrid mother. And so we would know that as sex magic. What that entity was doing was inseminating that hybrid mother with a fetus and then transferring his consciousness from his body into the body of the hybrid child within her. And so that's when you see, okay, hybridism within its full context is not defined by ufology. It's defined by practitioners of the occult, right? Carving their own sigils into the body and then leaving their own seed within the womb. Boom, hybridism. And so what's happened within ufology now specifically is that we want all of the sigils, but none of the historical context for them. We want all of the hybridology and hybridism, but not throughout history. And dare I say, even with Albert Bender, one of the very first contactees, he had built an altar to these things in his attic. So we want all the altars in ufology, but not the correct historical context that points us back to what these beings really are. And so all of this does point to, and this is some very, I mean, it's deep research, but it's expensive, personally. But what I can tell you is that the breakthroughs are occurring, and that there are members of our federal government that know this to be true. And I think that's really where we are, my friend.
So I want to change direction a little bit. Something you said earlier in the program that had to do with the space program, the fact that they were putting these sigils on their vehicles, and they were putting they were using sigils to almost summon, for lack of a better term, or using them. I'm sorry, to protect, not to summon, but to protect themselves. Is that am I saying that correctly?
Well, it depends on the sigil. Some of the reasons we're getting for them doing this is that they want to secure a successful launch. I mean, some of these are pentagrams. So it's not just anchoring the presence of the others into this rocket, right? It's also, these also are designed to protect them from exterior spiritual forces. So it's not just, right, to keep it together, it's to keep things out of them. And so this is why, again, when people study this phenomenon and they don't have a correct understanding of phenomenology, they compartmentalize it, right? And demonology, that's too religious. And ufology, that's too secular. And technology, all this is ancient. And, you know, it's like, let's get an idea of what all that means, but let's also sit down with a data set and have an honest, intellectually honest conversation and ask ourselves, why is it, for instance, that Diana Walsh Pasuka, a religious scholar, was told that these people literally put Barack Obama, not today's Barack Obama, and not the Senator Barack Obama, the president, the leader of the free world, when he was leader of the free world, we're going to go launch a rocket. Now, we're going to put sigils on the rocket and we're going to put you in a circle. We want you to look in this direction when the rocket launches into space. That's done for them. And we're going to go home and eat dinner thinking, okay, all is well. It's not. That's a ritual. We don't even have to argue about that, right? That's not where the conversation is. The conversation is, what does it mean to them? Why would we, right, position the leader of the free world, unbeknownst to him, mind you?
Okay. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
In the circle. Don't even look this way, look that way. And that's just one question. Now we can go down the rabbit hole of who taught them this ritual. Where are they getting these downloads of information? Number two, right? What made them believe that if they perform these rituals for them, that they would have a successful completion of an experiment? So there is an exchange of information here. There's an exchange of currency, where we're being told on the outside, right? We're going to sell a bunch of merch and t-shirts. This is all amazing stuff, that there's nothing to see here. And at the end of the bottom of it all, there is much to see. And our government knows this. And we need to come clean with the public. The problem, though, is if they do that, the zealotic religious people will say, okay, yeah, we told you it's all demons. Right? And the secularists are going to come out and say it can't possibly be true because religion's destroyed entire civilizations. And so there has to be a correct, more data-driven, not dogma-led, data-driven disclosure. But if and when that comes, what they're going to have to tell the public is, yes, they want altars. We don't know why. Yes, that we're employing their sigils. We don't know why. And yes, they're the ones who determine our space program. So all of this, if you zoom out, my friend, you see this, again, this kind of matrix-like construct around our species that says, I'll give you a little bit of technology, but I'm going to put my consciousness in it. And yeah, you'll be able to do some things, but it is actually being monitored and controlled by a species that even Matthew Brown recently came out and said we are being given bad science. Why? Because it's not designed for us to break out of the matrix. It's designed to keep us locked underneath the auspice and the power of another species that demands worship, altars, and performs rituals on people without their permission and without their memory. So sad.
And it seems like the further we get down the technology rabbit hole, the worse it gets. You ask yourself, and I'm just going to bring it up, and I know some people may roll their eyes, but I want to bring up the example of AI. AI comes from, it comes from some people may say, well, it comes from a logical place, right? It comes from, but does it? It seems like the genie that literally came out of the technological bottle, right? And it comes from a place where it feels like, at least to me, it feels like that technology that was handed over that really is part of Pandora's box, right? It's one of those things that it's got the demonic trap to it. It feels magical and wonderful, but it's got that little catch-22 at the end. It's not all perfect. Right. You go to use it for a legal briefing, but it gives you the wrong information at the end that you can't use in a legal briefing that will trip you up when it comes to your case. You go to use it for an all-important project, or you go to use it for a school paper, yet it's inaccurate information. It's going to end up getting you an F. It's the demonic trick, right? Use me for a certain amount of time, and it turns out to be wonderful. It's a wonderful shortcut, but it will trip you up in the end. Doesn't it feel like the demonic trick?
It is very reminiscent of ancient technology within idolatry, like I mentioned, right? The practitioner stoking the embers of a dying fire. The thing is, when you're looking at some of what the metamaterials that they're giving us, even with Richard Banderick, who was a part of various top secret data collections, he did a podcast and was talking about how he was a part of a group that was contracted with the government to go out and collect metamaterial. And he said that it was falling from the sky. Key point, falling from the sky, but it mirrored its surroundings. So when he holds it in his hand, it looks like a hand. Or when it's up in the sky, it looks like a sky. And so pieces of reality were almost falling out of the sky, if you will. And now he said we were holding it in our hands. And if it did not align with the person holding it, it would dissolve into a dust. And so his opinion was that there is something out there trying to manipulate our species. And he said that depending on who held it, the phenomenon would allow that individual to deconstruct and to re-engineer whatever that metamaterial was. And so if I may say that sometimes we see programmers that are being programmed by the phenomenon. I'm going to AI, right? AI is just, it's the byproduct of programmers, right? But is it possible that something is programming the programmers? Because, right, it's that individual, go out and find the metamaterial and carve my name into it. Well, that's me creating a program. No, you were programmed to create that program.
Yeah.
There's something else out there that's manipulating you, calling you out into the deserts and to collect this metamaterial. So we are in a very precarious position, one that could possibly bring on the real entities out there, not the little imps, not the archetypes, but the phenomenon blending its consciousness within our own technology and handing it to us and saying, yeah, it's not us, it's you. You're the one that programmed it, but we programmed you. And I think that's where we are.
So what is if we truly, and I'm going to go all the way back to, was it Ike or Eisenhower in supposedly the deal that was made between Eisenhower and the aliens for technology, or the military-industrial complex as it is known now, and aliens for a swap of technology versus, or I'll use aliens in quotes here because it may have not been aliens, but something else. So the swap is made, and we don't know what deal with the devil was made at that point. Technology for whatever it was that they required. And the idea behind the story, at least the way that I've heard it a couple different times from a couple different experts now, is that Ike walked away and said, I can't make the deal because I don't, your terms are too high. But the military industrial complex said, we'll make the deal because we need the technology. And nobody knows what it was that they asked for. At least I don't know what it was that they asked for. But do you know? Have you heard?
The only thing I can come back to, it's not just my own independent research, but other researchers I've been working with that are not even religious. See, people like to project that, right? Who's just religious dog, but it's like, no, these people are secularists, but they've been looking at the model being presented over and over. It's a common pathology. It's through and through. So I had to preface what I'm going to say with that. But to answer your question, my friend, it would go back to the Collins Elite research back in the 1950s, right here in my hometown, Dayton, Ohio, when they, in their research, they encountered a group of practitioners within our federal government that were trying to contact these beings. And the way they were contacting them, again, it's exactly what we're seeing today. Right? Exactly what we're seeing today. They contacted them in controlled laboratories. Actually, no, it's not exactly what we're seeing today. It's a little bit different. It's right out in the open today, my friend. Different. But in the 1950s and 60s, yes, these practitioners were in the laboratories and they were reading out of grimoires written with the help of entities, written and prescribed by practitioners. And at the completion of the ritual, the phenomenon would partially manifest an apparitional thing or technology, and they would get the blueprints of it, right? Oh, okay, that's cool. Okay, thank you very much. But there was a currency exchanged. And it wasn't just rituals, there were sacrifices, and there, at least according to Nick Redfern in his book, that it was, some of them were human. And that's not changed, by the way. It's not changed. It's not an accident that the leading abductee in the world is looking at balls of light and telling them how beautiful they are. You are gorgeous. Aren't you wonderful? Thank you. This is amazing. And these same balls of light, by the way, are witnessed going in and out of bodies and carving them with sigils and burns. But the problem is the phenomenon is in control of all of the narratives. It does not want to be seen. And dare I say, the government is also in control of the narrative on the part of the phenomenon. They don't want us to know what they're doing with the phenomenon behind closed doors. They don't. They would destroy all models, and it would make us realize that, yeah, we are in some kind of farm. It's like some kind of artificial habitat. But currency is being given, and despite all the archetypes throughout history, bloodletting and vampirism, right, and apparitions. I mean, one thing I've been trying to hit on lately, because people aren't really understanding this, the apparitions, even in parapsychology, they were usually projected by the same balls of light that the leading abductee in the world saw right before he saw the white lady. These are archetypes. We first saw the lady in white, the white ladies, rather, in hauntology. And the legend was, see, it's the same thing. Legend was, that what happened was these are really bad, angry, evil spirits. These were brides that died on their wedding day and buried in their wedding dresses. So the manifestation is the same. The explanations behind them, they vary. And it was even in Lloyd Auerbach's research where they kept seeing, again, a lady in white, a white lady walking through a house. They saw it with their eyes and they thought, wait a minute, we can capture this on camera. They go to their technology and they didn't see the apparition. They saw a ball of light. And so literally what was happening is the ball of light was projecting the apparition. And so when you see the underlying pathology of this, right, you start to see through all of the masks and then you get frustrated. And you're like, well, that's not fitting the blueprint. That cannot be an extraterrestrial and Hathor. Or shall I say this? It cannot be the Holy Spirit and Mother Mary.
Right. Yeah.
It's impossible. And what is happening is the phenomenon is leaning on the fact that people will not test it. That is the pantheon. That is, again, when you're talking about the Holy Trinity, the Holy Spirit hovered over the Virgin Mary. She did not hover over herself. The Holy Spirit didn't hover over itself. So when you start seeing the way the phenomenon is reinterpreting these encounters, it makes me question what actually happened, right? And maybe we should do a little bit more research as to what's actually going on. But that's where I'm at, my friend. I'm done with the narratives. I'm done with the data doctoring. I think that it's been a very frustrating part of my career. But I'm just to the point now where I'm collecting enough data and I'm seeing through a lot of this, and the best research being done and the best data we're getting are being collected during conversations the phenomenon doesn't want us to have. It's not what they want us to remember. It's what they want us to forget, my friend.
Let me ask you this, as we begin to wrap up here in our time together here, Nathaniel, and that's this. For someone who has been marked by one of these sigils, and someone who's maybe has a bloodline that's been marked by these sigils, where's the hope that they can break that chain? Where's the hope that they can say, well, we want to break out of this pattern of being possessed by this entity, and we just want some light, some goodness in our life? How do we break away from that? And especially since you've talked about the scarification of the brain, well, how do you break free of that pattern?
So most of the scarifications that are occurring are people who are conjurers. Even the handprint that I received from my mentor was inside the body, again, pushing out of it. You saw the bottom part. He was a conjurer. And what's happening over and over and over and over again is that the phenomenon will create an archetype to interface with you and I, right? Okay, I'm Deering Edna, or I'm a guide, or you know, I'm an extraterrestrial, or dare I say, I'm just a demon. Throw holy water at me, we're good. And we'll interface with that, thinking, okay, this thing follows rules. We're good. I've got this. I can do this. And that will serve the phenomenon's purpose. But at the time of its choosing, that archetype will be transcended. The mask will come off. And the truest nature of the phenomenon will manifest. And so, yeah, the holy water works for the archetype. Right? See what I'm saying?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, it works for the archetype. And we've seen this even, and we didn't know we were seeing it, right? Ed and Lorraine Warren, for instance, okay, they go to the Conjuring House, Harrisburg, Rhode Island. Okay. Oh, we're dealing with lower spirits, archetypes. Right? Well, let's do a seance. In the middle of the seance, the mask came off, right?
Yep.
And another entity, not another entity, the same intelligence, right? It baited them into this. Oh, you need okay, yeah, go reach out to them. And when they did, it pulled the mask off. The real proto-intelligence manifested. And there were no rules. And so what we're looking at now is, okay, what applies to the archetypes? And what applies to the proto-intelligence? What applies to the proto-intelligence more than anything is iron. It's all throughout history in every corner of the world. Iron. And so that is what I'm not a doctor, obviously, but that's what I prescribe to people and when they ask me that question.
Interesting.
And also, don't conjure them because they're conjuring you. That too.
Really? Okay. Okay. So obviously, don't go seeking it. It'll it's not
It seeks to be seen.
okay.
And when you see it, you will become a co-creator of the archetype it manifests. This is why, again, it's the apparition to you. It's just a ball of light to the camera. So we're being manipulated even with our own perceptions. And so that's what I recommend. Don't conjure it, because here's what happens. We say, okay, I'm going to go do this. It's saying, I'm leading you to me. You're not saying my name. I'm saying yours. You're not conjuring me. I'm conjuring you. And you're just being given the illusion of control. And then that's when the purest source of the phenomenon goes pathogenic. Not just you. I'm coming after your whole bloodline. And it's not just paranormal anymore. Now it's epigenetic. It's in your family tree. So you may think you're conjuring me. I'm conjuring you, but truthfully, I may even be conjuring your sixth generation.
Wow. So how I guess one more here. How common are these entities? Is this the common demons that we're seeing, or are these a level above?
So, way level above. So, what it appears to be, and this is the research that I and my colleagues are doing, where 90% of the time, the people in the field, especially like, paranormal researchers, go into a house. Okay, it's Dear Edna. Oh, we got a little bit of data, and that's cool and everything. To me, and this is my perspective, these are archetypes. And the most cutting edge research being done right now is literally sitting with the phenomenon, and the phenomenon say, okay, I'm Jared Adna. And literally, no, you're not. I don't want to talk to that archetype. Oh my God, you're getting me pumped up, right? Mm-hmm. And so now what's happening, my friend, is the phenomenon is so intelligent where it goes through an evolution of stages that doesn't work on you. No. And so what I'm not saying is that all of these archetypes are right horizontal. No, they're vertical. The phenomenon has a systematic way of interfacing, right? Okay, so I'm during Edna. If we say, I don't believe you are at all, and I won't believe you are, the phenomenon is now saying, there's a learning matrix. Who do I become? Who do I become? Who do I become? Okay, boom, I'm this. And then we'll say, nope, we're moving beyond that. And it will go through a series of strategies. Again, this is the learning matrix people hear me talk about often, where it's updating. And then finally, after hours and hours, here it is. Okay, now and I'm telling you, it's not just the technology changes, the EMF read, all of that. We step into something to where we've pushed the phenomenon beyond all of the masks, and now we're truly testing. Now, this is why, again, people say, okay, religion's stupid and all that. Okay, fine. But they were some of the very first experiencers, and they had a testing mechanism to test the spirits. Number one, you need to. That's a huge deal too, right? Mm-hmm. Some people are like, I don't have to. I'll just take it, hook, line, and sinker. No. And so this is what we're realizing is that 90% of the phenomenon, okay, yeah, I'm everything. I'm all of these. And so that's why it is, right? They compartmentalize it because these are various archetypes of the phenomenon in different stages of contacting it. And I guess I'll finish with this real quick. This is also demonstrated within the pathology of Ted Rice's abductions, where he was, he had already been abducted by the phenomenon as a young man, but he forgot it. The phenomenon was literally repressing these memories. And he became a psychic medium and was talking to his guides, right? An archetype, a lower level archetype of the phenomenon.
Yep.
And so, when he started having post-traumatic stress disorder, he went to go get memory regression sessions. And sure enough, he remembered, oh, yeah, they took me. And they weren't guides at all. They were something entirely different. And then when he's going through these episodes, right? Manic episodes, nightmares, stress attacks, panic attacks, guess what? Goes to his guides. No longer there. Because once he snuffed it out, right, he had transcended all of the other archetypes, and now he's thinking, well, who are they? That was the phenomenon.
Ah, okay.
So we have to test it.
Yeah, understandable. Okay, all right. Well, Nathaniel Gillis, I want to thank you so much, my friend, for being with us. 2 books out there that we have a link to in the description. The Skin That Crawls, A Moment Called Man. Scary stuff, my friend. Scary stuff. And I wish you the best, and I'll be praying for you as you go out there and continue in your research and keep you in my thoughts and prayers, because
Thank you, sir.
I do worry about you, my friend. I do. So.
Me too. Yeah. But I'm just glad to be here, brother. So, yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to discuss the research. Always a pleasure to be on with you, brother. So thank you.
Pleasure is mine. Folks, before we wrap up today, a couple of notes here. One, if you're listening to this podcast, you're not watching this podcast, you can go to YouTube. It's the original Darkness Radio, or just go to darknessradioshow.com and you can click on this episode and you'll see the video along with the audio. We appreciate it if you can like and subscribe if you so wish at the YouTube channel. We're always looking for new subscribers, and please join us over there on the video as well as the audio. 2, the Darkness Radio app is available right now and updated for iOS 18. Please join us on the Darkness Radio app as well. Also, I'll be returning to the Palmer House on August 1st and 2nd as part of Potographs at the Palmer House. That's right. Potographs for Pooches is returning to the Palmer House with Tim and Lauren Miley and Scotty Rorick and myself. It's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you're looking forward to it as well. Ticket details are at potographsforpooches.com. If you can't remember that, which I know you can remember that, but if you can't remember that, just check out darknessradioshow.com in the events section. There'll be a click through there. If you just click through on the banner, you can click through that and get your tickets there. There are individual day tickets there for August 1st and 2nd. Proceeds for this are going to a great cause. Tri-County Humane Society of St. Cloud, my second city away from home. That's, of course, the city where I broadcast from. So, folks, if you can, please join us at the Palmer House August 1st and 2nd in Sauk Center, Minnesota, as we raise money for the Tri-County Humane Society. Potographs for Pooches, Potographs at the Palmer House. It's myself, Tim and Lauren Miley, and Scotty Rorick. We're going to have a great weekend. We're going to do some investigating, and we're just going to have a plain great time. So come on out and join us. And, of course, it's for a great cause. So there you go. And let's see, 3, what else am I missing? Oh, we're on the weekend. And, of course, we're approaching summer quickly. Again, if you have a neighbor out there that is disabled, a neighbor out there that maybe needs your help, that is elderly, please be a light in someone's darkness this weekend. Go out there and help them. If they need some yard work done, if they need some housework done, don't lead somebody astray. Maybe even take them out for a meal or get them out on the town. Help out a neighbor that's elderly or disabled this weekend. The weather's going to be nice this weekend, folks, so please help them out wherever you can. Just be a light in someone's darkness this weekend. It's a message from your friends here at Darkness Radio. For Jessica Freeberg, for Mally Fox, for Beer City Bruiser, I'm Tim Dennis. Go out and have a great weekend this weekend, folks. We'll see you next week for more in the best of paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio.